Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my fellow YouTubers, Facebookians. Welcome to another edition of Living Simply and Fun. I'm your host, Aries. That's Aaron, and that's little Moppy down there.
Which you can't see, he's off the screen. So, anyways, we're talking about activities that are fun, at least we try to. And one of the activities I find fun is the advancement or the learning of knowledge. To me, I like to read, I like to expand my horizons, I like to find things that are meaningful. And so this begins my talk about our public library system.
The plane, boss, the plane. Whoops, sorry,
Now,
an out-of-movie experience.
Now, essentially, a library is a place to house books. That's the definition of library. But if you're talking about the educational institution, it is an educational institution of various books to expand one's learning for the community, not just students. That is the main point of a library. It's part of the educational system. No, thank you.
This is a blend of Christmas blend. Apparently Aaron went to the food bank yesterday with me, and we both got ourselves some coffee. It's pretty good stuff. It's a Starbucks blend. This is how we educate ourselves in the coffee world. Higher learning by testing out various coffees and cheeses and cigars and pipe tobacco.
Don't worry, the FDA will ban it all one day. You won't be able to have anything except for Soylent Green.
We'll be dead. I'll be good and dead by then.
So, anyways, this originally started a couple weeks ago when I was, well, actually no, I'd say about a week ago, I was looking for some very specific books. And none of the libraries in my entire area happen to have anything by these very classic authors of history. That's kind of disappointing to have an educational system where you can't even find certain authors' works. But I'll get into that some more in a moment. Now, on June 13th, Friday the 13th.
Yeah, bad day.
Yes.
I broke a tooth.
It was and you broke it on the 14th.
No, I broke it on the 13th.
Today's the 14th. Yes, you broke it yesterday. It was a very bad day, though, but it started with our library fiasco. We went into the library, first off, to return 3 books, I believe it was. 4. I had 1 and you had 3, and I had 1 to renew.
Don't forget that the librarian that was helping us knew damn good and well I had a book, but it was hidden way in the back.
Yeah, she couldn't find it even though she knew it was there. So, anyways, we go in just basically for this, but I had a question. You see, my online account with the library said that I had a book that was overdue that I know I returned. That book was a book called Islamic Mystic Poetry, the Sufi verse from the early mystics to Rumi, which was due on June 11th, which I know I returned to 2 employees, and I even mentioned which 2 employees. And they said, oh, well, it's part of the interlibrary loan system, and it's got to go to the interlibrary loan hub or whatever where it can be checked in, and then it'll come off your thing. So don't worry about it. It'll come off. All right. Well, that kind of sort of answered my first question. So I started asking, why did it also have a number instead of being Islamic mystic poetry, Sufi verse from the early mystics to Rumi, to being called 125270954? And of course she said, oh, well, that's because it's not in our library system, it's in the interlibrary system, so it never got entered into ours. Wait, no, the system originally actually said what the book was titled. It lost its title somewhere. So, as I'm asking her this question, though, here comes another employee of the library, and she's got a scowl on her face, and the first thing out of her mouth is, well, you know, you shouldn't be taking books out of the, requesting books for the library to purchase. That costs us money, and every time you do an interlibrary loan, that costs us money. And you shouldn't be doing this. And if you're going to do this, you better make sure that the books are cheap before doing it, because we can't afford to be buying books. It's a library.
And,
Libraries deal in books. If they can't afford books, then maybe they shouldn't be a library.
and he's the one that got a new one.
Yes, that was just the first part of it. Then I was basically told if I can't find a book there, then I shouldn't even bother reading it because it's not important. Wait, hold on. You're telling me that Josephus, who was one of our writers, who was writing
During the Jesus time,
at the same time Jesus was alive, is unimportant, or Dionysus is unimportant, or Pelagius is unimportant, Ptolemy is unimportant, Aristotle and Plato are unimportant.
Tolstoy.
Just to name a few right there off the top of my head. These are major authors from history. They're unimportant. If they're not in the library, they're garbage. Next, I ended up saying, well, most of your books here are mind rot books, and by that what I mean is that it's not beyond a 5th grade education. A 5th grader could go in there, pick up any book, and read it. There is nothing in there complicated. There is no James Joyce Finnegan's Wake in our library that you'd have to have a college degree to
War
be able to
and
read.
Peace.
War and Peace would be easy to find in there, and a 5th grader could read War and Peace. It's just people joke about it being a doorstop. It's not even the world's thickest book.
The world's thickest book, by the way, is Understanding Women, Volume 1. That's...
I actually was just looking at a book that I was thinking about getting from Lactantius, I believe it is. It was a 1,000-page book anyways. And that was just for section 1 of the book. It's really a 2,000-page book. There's various different books like this that I was looking for. But anyways, getting back to this whole thing, I basically wrote a nice letter out to the library system and complaining about the actions of this woman. And today I had, when I checked in to my online library again, the 14 books I requested were deleted. There was 3 books that were on hold, 2 of them by Selma Lengeloff that I was looking forward to reading her writing. She was a philosopher from Sweden.
Did you ever check the search feature
anyway, yes. Anyways, when I was going through and looking for them on my account there, my holds were all gone. All my holds deleted, which those were already in the process of being sent to me. Anyways, I originally done 13 books in which 3 of them were brought in for me, and I read those and returned them. Then I had 13 more books I requested, and 4 of them were brought in, of which 1 of them I actually got, and I just renewed it, and the other 3 were on hold, which they're unable for me to be gotten at this point because they've been deleted. And this, I am positive, is the same woman who yelled at me to delete it. Now, I think that a reasoning for this is because I'm disabled and I have an invisible disability. I have a service dog and I travel around with him, and I have blackout situations where when people intimidate me, threaten me, harass me, bully me, yell at me, scream at me, or if I make somebody angry even. I can't afford to black out and be slicing myself up and bleeding all over the place because I'm working. At the same time, I also have a seizure disorder, which that interferes with my ability to work, and I have a heart problem right now, or some other chest problem where I can barely walk 30 feet without being out of breath, in pain, doubled over, asking to catch my breath. I cannot work. I should be able to work from home for myself, but what job, what field? There's none readily available. Anyways, I think her main thought is she's got to work for a living and I don't, and I'm better educated than her, so what gives there? And I think this is the reason she's discriminating against me. It could be that out of the books that I had ordered, out of the 7 they brought in, not including the 3 they didn't, that knocks it down to 4. Out of those 4 books, 3 of them were about Sufi poetry, Islamic and Muslim poetry, with titles in them like Islam and Muslim and Sufi. So, therefore, I have a feeling that it could also be that she's discriminating against me because she believes I'm Muslim, which I'm not. but I think it's wrong not to learn about other religions and mystics and holy people. I'm sorry, but there's a reason they're holy. It's usually because of their peacefulness and their love for others, not because of their warlike attitudes or anything. So, then on top of this, I love that term, on top of this. I don't know why. But then I think that part of the possibility is that I'm always with Rita, so maybe she thinks I'm homosexual. So here I'm a freeloading homosexual Muslim. That's what I think she's assuming, and she doesn't like the idea of that. And that's not the truth about me, but I think that's why she attacked me. Anyways, just to point out some stupidity of our library system here in town.
Hakuna Matata. Another out of movie experience.
The Quincy Library has 25 authors that have written books there that are on the subject of mathematics. 25. That is it. 25. Now, just to give you a few of the names, maybe the best known, Rosana De Soto, who wrote a book about teaching math to Spanish children. That, Dolores Emery wrote a book for SATs and algebra, I believe. Dan and John Green, I think, worked together on a similar book. But they also have Lou Diamond Phillips listed as writing a book on mathematics. There was a video actually called Stand and Deliver, which I think is a motivational video. There isn't one single name on the list of 25 that is famous in any way, in any regards. But here's a list I created of who the library should have for expanding one's knowledge. Books by Archimedes, Brahmagupta, George Cantor, Arthur Cayley, H.S.M. Coxeter, René Descartes, Peter Dirichlet, Euclid, Leonhard Euler, Leonard Pisano Fibonacci, Gottlob Frege, Carl Gauss, David Hilbert, Kenneth Koonin, J.L. Lagrange, Wilhelm Leibniz, John van Neumann, Isaac Newton, Henry Poincaré, Pythagoras, Srinivasa Ramanujan, Bertrand Russell, Alan Turing, Herman Weyl, or Andrew Wiles, who's the only living one off that whole list. But those are among the most famous mathematicians in the entire world throughout history. They don't have one book written by any famous mathematician. Not one. And when you go into their library system, they're not even available throughout any of the North Coast Regional Library System, which is something like 50 libraries. Not one. Not one Archimedes book. Not one Euclid book. Not one book about Isaac Newton. Well, not about him, but by him. Now, if I want to look up biographies of Archimedes, or Descartes, or Carl Gauss, or Isaac Newton, oh, no problem. I can find biographies, but you know what? That teaches me nothing about what these men wrote. Why were they so famous? It doesn't help to just know their names and the fact that they lived and had sex with this person, got married, had 15 children, died of old age or the plague or whatever. It's great to know a little bit about them, but what was in their mind? What did they write that made them famous? That's what I want to know. And our library system has none of this. You can find anything by J.D. Robb or Clive Cussler. You can find anything by, I don't know, Tony Hillerman, the Kellerman family, the King family, Stephen King and his wife.
Tom Clancy.
Tom Clancy. No problem. If you want to find a book written,
Sherlock Holmes,
you want to find a biography
Doyle.
of Adolf Hitler, fine. You can find a book about him. But you know what? He came to power. He was born of a Jewish woman. He was popped out. Ended up getting pissed off when the Jewish doctor let her die after she had breast cancer, and he believed he treated her wrong. Ended up coming to power, ruling a nation, attacking other nations, putting Jewish people to death, and then he was killed during World War II. Wonderful. Okay, we know the gist of his entire story and entire life history in a matter of 30 seconds. I don't need to read 30 biographies on him, which our library has. I don't need to know everything about Princess Di for the 500th time. There's 20 books of biography of Princess Diane. I'm sorry, that's disgusting. I don't need to read 2 biographies on Kim Kardashian. When it comes down to sports, there's a book about Babe Ruth. There's books about baseball, but you can only learn so much about it without having to get out there and actually get your hands dirty and play the game. I mean, you can learn, but that's not going to teach you to play. But books on mathematics, you read those, and you're going to retain a bit of that, and you're actually going to have some knowledge you didn't have yesterday. But the authors on here, they're writing books mostly for SATs. These aren't college-level books. They might have a little knowledge in them, a little, but this is supposed to be refresher stuff for you to understand what it is that you learned and may have forgotten already. It's not new stuff. It's not stuff that's going to lead you to a better career or being a better person or knowing anything. Now, of course, I chose mathematics because, well, there was only 25 books at my library on mathematics. 25! Of course, one of those is actually a movie, as I said, with Lou Diamond Phillips in it. That means 24 books. 24. This is gross. This is why our society is screwed up. If I wanted to read any of these authors, I could read them for free in almost every single country in the world, except for America. If I want, I can get a lot of these authors on Kindle if I could learn Latin, Spanish, German, etc. But if I don't, then I have to pay like $1.99 instead to get the English version copy that's not as good quality as the foreign language copies. Our country's going down the drain. And that is, to me, something that's hurtful. And so what turns out to be a fun hobby, like reading and expanding one's knowledge, ends up hurtful sometimes. And I think we need to do more in this country to expand knowledge, expand learning, encourage people to learn, and stop doing things with our library of taking away people's ability to actually learn and making them read garbage like this author that was recommended by Vogue magazine a year ago, who's written stories about how their cat solves crimes.
Excuse me. I know someone who's an author, and I'm not going to give any details, but their books are utter garbage. They should be put into a garbage disposal.
We know a couple authors, and I've read their books for the most part, and their books are garbage. It's mostly fiction, and that which is spiritual actually is so screwed up that it's not spiritual. It's more garbage.
Marty! What has happened in the name of Sir Isaac Newton?
Yeah.
The world's gone to hell in a handbasket.
Isaac Newton discovers gravity, and the only thing the library has on him is a brief child's biography that basically says an apple fell on his head, and he discovered gravity. He was a great man. That's essentially all it says.
Yay!
It's a 20-page picture book with a brief paragraph on each page. It's probably meant for about 4 or 5-year-olds. Maybe 6 in most countries. In America, that's meant for an 8th grader. Okay, I'm serious. We're getting to the point that this country's getting bad, and Common Core is making it even worse.
Well, excuse me, what is Common Core?
Common Core is something that the government put into practice that's meant to be in all states. However, 2 states, I believe, have banned Common Core now. That basically says, we're going to make sure that all of our children learn the thing in a simplistic manner. But the simplistic manner is something like, there are 19 students in a class, and there are...
Oh, yes, I know that. You told me. I don't want to hear this again.
So instead, you have to make a marking for every student, and then 5 apples for each student. And then instead of doing 19 times 5, you have to actually count 5 plus 5 is 10. And then 5 plus 5 is 10, 5 plus 5 is 10.
Yes, I get it. Please, just my brain's going to hurt. I remember this.
Exactly. So instead, they make it like 64 steps to figure out something you should be able to do in your head like that. Actually, it was 109 steps to do something that most people in their mind, by 2nd grade, should be able to say.
Was this implemented by George Bush or Obama?
I believe it was Bush. I do not know who set up Common Core. Maybe somebody can enlighten us on that. I could search it up and find it in a matter of seconds, but I'm not doing that during a video. So, I don't know. That's my complaint and my upset. I mean, I'm looking forward to reading all sorts of stuff from Louis de Gongora, Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, Demosthenes, Marcus Tullius Cicero, Saint Teresa of Avila, Pelagius, Lactantius, Saint Jerome, Saint John Chrysostom, Saint Gregory Palamas, Saint Gregory of Nazianzus, Saint Cyprian, Eusebius, Saint Bonaventure, Lycurgus, Valerius Flaccus, Pliny the Younger, Josephus, Herodotus, Diodorus Siculus, Dionysius the Areopagite, and many, many others. Not one book in our library. Not one. From any of those authors I just mentioned. You wonder what's wrong with this country. You wonder why morons are sheep that just follow what the media says. It's because nobody cares to learn. In fact, it's not encouraged in our communities anymore. Our libraries try to dumb us down. Our TVs dumb us down. Our schools are making us stupid.
When we basically said what we said, or I didn't say it, Aaron said it, he basically said TV is a brain rot. The librarian said, well, everyone has their own tastes.
You know, our library does not even have a copy right now of Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter, which was written in common language for the time frame when it was written, and now most people, it's too complicated for them to read. Too complicated. This was our common language in England, in the United States during that time.
I want to say something. You know how Americans are dumbed down, right? We're probably the only country in the world that we're compressed down to be stupid sheeple douche nuggets that the government wants you to lead around like a pit or whatever, you know? Here's the thing. In my day, in Brother Aaron's day, King James Version was the common language. The these, thous, and those. People don't understand it anymore. They don't understand the King James. They have to have these watered down versions of the Bible, mind you, as a Bible scholar, that makes it easier to understand. And half the translations are completely utter crap.
Yep. But as I was saying about Nathaniel Hawthorne, he wrote in what was the common language at the time. And almost every single person at that time could at least understand that book if it was read to them. Now, most people can't understand it. Most people don't read it. When my granddad was going to school, that was 5th grade reading material. Now, it's not even college level reading material, and some college students will read it because some colleges do include it. But it's gone from 5th grade level to college level in the course of 100 years. Okay? During my great-great-grandmother's time, well, not my great-great-grandmother, but my grandfather's, great-grandmother. During her time, she actually had to read that in 2nd grade because her class was being taught that. She was being taught in a one-room schoolhouse. She could understand that. But today, our 5th graders couldn't even read 2 paragraphs of it before they're sitting there. I don't understand 30% of the words in this.
My mother, for example, told me a story. I don't know if she told you this. But during her 14th and 15th and 16th year, she got her high school diploma, apparently, is what she told me. But anyway, she had to take courses in the 4 years in high school back in the early 50s, I think it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mid-50s. Psychology. She said psychology, that was college level. She said she understood it. But now, you give a psychology book in college level, these idiots won't even know what to do with it.
Yep. Pre-1900s, when we were learning things like philosophy, we'd learn from stories, books written by Descartes. We'd learn from books written by Aristotle. We'd learn from books written by Plato. Now, we read by books, learn philosophy from a teacher who's teaching from a book that is written by about 30 people who discuss various topics according to how the great philosophers taught. In other words, this person who's read this person is telling us about what that person wrote, instead of us now reading that person. Well, why did we end up needing a middleman to tell us what person C wrote? I mean, it used to be person A read from person C. Now, person A is taught by person B, who is teaching us from a book written by person C, so that we can understand something written by person D that we never actually see. That doesn't make a lot of sense why we do that. And now with Common Core, it's more like we're person A, learning from person B, who tells us to read from person C, who tells us about what person D, E, F, and G wrote about person X, who is the person we really want to learn from, but we don't exactly have to know anything more than, well, they happen to have been influential in their field. Like Pythagoras. I mean, okay, we know he wrote the Pythagorean theorem, at least many of us do, but today, we don't even need to know he wrote the Pythagorean theorem. We just need to know that Pythagoras had something to do with math.
Exactly. And, you know, it irritates the heck out of me, and I'm going to say this. The library goes, rips him a new one, leaves me alone, yet basically puts him down for wanting to have a higher level of education. Now, I have a higher learning of God. I have a higher learning of the Bibles and scriptures and etc. But when he said, oh, yes, the other day, I want to learn this, maybe you'd be interested in reading it too, I said, okay, I'd like to hire my knowledge too. Guess what? They crap on him. He turns around and says, oh, yeah, anyways, look at her. She had 100 books and about 80% of them were filled. Every person has their own opinions and every person has their own taste. That's how she put it.
Well,
yeah, and it's in.
I was talking to this about Rita the other day. Kids' books used to have some moral in them, you know, like, you know, if somebody stole your toy, or if you found a lost toy and you knew whose it was, that's a better one, that you return it. You know, that it's like, oh, Bob lost his toy in a sandbox. I found Bob's toy. I returned Bob's toy. Bob is happy. Now it's like, the cat jumps. The cat jumps high. The cat jumps even higher. The cat is tired. The cat goes to bed. Good night, cat. What did we learn from that? We learned nothing. And it didn't even teach the kid how to speak. No wonder kids like my neighbor sit there and all they do all day long is scream out their window, car! Car! It's like, hi, how are you? Car!
For
okay,
example,
that's great. You're 5 years old. Can you say something else? Car!
We did a video review of this a while ago. It's called My Fair Lady. Angela, Goodbye My Lady. Angela got it for us. Now,
great
this has
movie.
a great movie and a great storyline.
But it's not a kid's story.
No.
I mean, yes, it's kind of along the line.
The thing is,
I'm talking about stories to read your infant. Your baby's first stories, okay?
Yes, I understand, but this has the thing about moral values.
Yes.
We're talking about the world going
Heck,
to hell.
most of our Disney movies used to. But now we've got Disney movies that don't. It's just like, oh yes, Ice Princess, freeze everything. Okay, yeah. Anyways, enough of that. I got bread rising in the other room. I got a TV program kind of going because I'm a video game addict. So much for everything not being mind rot. But sometimes you got to have something to take your mind off of things. Otherwise, you get too frustrated about them. And this has kind of been a vent video. And sometimes venting can be fun. And actually, in this one, this is more a message that's extremely disturbing. Very, very disturbing for America, and I believe Canada and England and Australia too. Because if these books are not available in some places in English, then I guarantee they're not going to be in the library systems of England, Australia, or Canada as well. But they are in Spanish libraries. They are written in Spanish, and we're always telling the people that the Spanish are stupid. I'm sorry, they seem more intelligent than us. We're always saying that the Japanese are stupid, but well, okay, we're not saying that one. But, you know, the Italians have them written, the French have them written. They're leagues ahead of us, and we're going to be the third world country in the future, okay?
We are because, let's just say it's because of finances, and the fact that
I want out of this country, to be honest.
Let me just finish. I wrote a friend of mine, Angela, subscribes to this channel, I think. Anyways, I was writing her about how China has got all the jobs. Well, guess what? Even though China keeps people in factories, they have a higher level of education for the most part than over here, where we're being dumbed down to try to be bred like robots.
Their 3rd and 5th graders have a higher level of education than most of our college students anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, most Americans that watch this are going to sit there and tell me I'm wrong, too.
I want to say something. You know how this place is dubbed down?
Anyways, I'm off. So.
For a biblical point of view, look at it this way. Tinsdale, who was writing the Bible, the King James, and all these other people, they were masters. They had 7, 8, 9 languages. We can't even retain 2 languages now, let alone 1.
Yeah, look at who I was just reading, Sor Inez de la Cruz. Sor Juana Inez de la Cruz. She learned Latin at the age of 3. No, wait. Age of 8 she learned Latin. She learned how to read and write at the age of 3 in Portuguese, I believe it was.
Yeah, see? There you go. Now look around.
And she also knew Spanish and French.
Yeah, nowadays we're being so dubbed down that no one wants to learn anymore.
And she was one of these so-called stupid Mexicans. I'm sorry, but the Mexican race is far more intelligent than Americans anymore. So I'm tired of hearing anybody call any other race America stupid, because Americans are stupid.
Well, I guess I'm stupid then.
No, not necessarily. You've learned better than most.
Well, anyways, with that said, there's your rant from Aaron. Please add and subscribe if you like. Please post comments in the box. Please add us as a friend. Please leave suggestions and feedback. Thank you, and may God bless the world.